Well, hello and welcome. You're watching Primetime Debate. My name is Aayush Ailawadi. Now, Prime Minister Modi left for China today to attend a two-day informal meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This meet is seen as a very significant one, given the current global situation around protectionism and past issues between the two countries, like Doklam. So, what can we expect from Modi's two-day meet? Manoj Joshi, Distinguished Fellow, ORF, joins us today on the show. Mr. Joshi, thanks so much for joining us on Bloomberg Quint. I want to understand from you what you make of this informal summit, so to speak, between the two leaders and the informal nature of it, because that's what they're stressing on. What do you think the key talking points will be? Because this will be different from the previous meetings, I'd imagine.
No.
Well, the thing is that relations between China and India have been generally going downhill in the last 2 or 3 years. We had the episode of the Chinese blocking the Indian membership to the NSG, blocking the designation of Masood Azhar as a UN designated terrorist, and then we had the standoff at Doklam. I think there was a kind of awareness between the leaderships of both sides that we are kind of on a bit of a slippery slope. And I think at this juncture, neither leader wants to be there, meaning Prime Minister Modi is facing re-election next year. He is worried that if some kind of an uncontrollable situation develops along the Sino-Indian border, it could really affect his re-election. Likewise, President Xi Jinping, he is confronting the United States currently, which is threatening trade war with him, and is basically had taken a much more hostile posture towards China than his predecessors had. So I think both leaders feel that this is time when they need to reach out to each other and ensure that they do not inadvertently, at least, sort of get involved in situations which would be mutually destructive for them.
Mr. Joshi, you know, it's interesting you mentioned the whole NSG issue, and I want to understand what you make of it, because China's support is crucial for India to be admitted to that particular group. Do you think that will be part of the talking points, or perhaps on the agenda between the two leaders?
No, I don't think the agenda is specific issues. I think more than anything else, what the agenda is, and I think the Prime Minister tweeted about this, he spoke in kind of very general terms, and I think there was an off-the-record briefing also of officials, by officials yesterday, day before, and they basically said that we don't expect a kind of a structured outcome. I think what the two sides are aiming at, essentially, you have two growing economies in Asia, two very large countries. They're growing very fast. They are rubbing against each other. And this rubbing has become a bit uncomfortable, and it is threatening to kind of burst into flames in certain areas. I mean, say we've had trouble. We've had trouble in Nepal. We've had trouble in Pakistan. Pakistan has always been there. Problem in Sri Lanka. Maldives, so Doklam, of course. So the two sides say that, you know, we need to better understand each other's motives. We need to understand and ensure that we do not inadvertently cross each other's red lines. And I think the idea here is that both sides would lay down on the table, say, well, this is, you know, what we think are our very vital interests in South Asia and in the Indian Ocean region. Likewise, India will also refer to what it considers its vital areas, and then they will see. And I think the word that you can use is basically well-known Latin phrase, working out a modus vivendi. How do these two large Asian powers grow without crossing each other to the point where it is mutually destructive?
It's an interesting time when such a meeting is taking place. You mentioned the domestic situations with both leaders, being re-election for Prime Minister Modi next year, and of course the way Xi Jinping has consolidated power over the last few months in China and also within his party Congress as well. But China remains India's largest trading partner. It dwarfs in comparison to the kind of trade the US and China really, the trade relationship that they enjoy. But I'd imagine, considering how relations between the US and China have taken an ugly turn over the last few weeks and the ongoing trade war that everyone's talking about, do you think that should, I mean, although it's an informal summit, there will be issues of bilateral and international importance, and of course security will play a key role considering the region. But trade would, I mean, you're saying that you wouldn't want to talk about the agenda of the meeting, so to speak, but trade surely has to come in out there, considering how India would be aligning with China, considering this trade war.
No, I think certainly all the issues, as I said, will be on the table. Trade is a very important issue. We have been complaining about a deficit in our trade with China. The United States, of course, has a much bigger complaint. I think to some extent from the Chinese side, the motivation is that they would like to shore up their flanks. They would like at least an Indian neutrality should there be an all-out trade war with the United States. But if you look at the pattern of trade, I don't think India can kind of replace any component out there. Okay, we may be able to export soybeans or something like that, but that's about it. So the issue is not the volume, because the volume is quite small relative to the US-China issue. But I think it's the political signaling that is important, and I think the political signaling that the United States will not have India, which is a very large Asian country, which the United States is wooing in its own way, alongside it, should the trade war break out.
So Joshi, thanks so much for speaking to us and sharing those insights. And of course, there will be developments over the weekend, and we'll get you those on Bloomberg Quint as well. So stay tuned. But there's another debate coming up, and we're going to be talking about why the most number of our ISPs are blocking the maximum number of websites and URLs and accounts here in India.